Hello there. Welcome in to a Tuesday edition of the show. I am so glad to have you, whether you're listening on your radio, streaming the show online at extrasports1300.com, or you're listening through the new Extra Sports 1300 app, sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health, and well-being for all. A veritable cornucopia of sports topics coming your way over the course of the next 3 hours. I do have one guest. She is Laura Busby, the head coach of the Air Force women's soccer team. They get their season going on Thursday. Talk to her about expectations. Does she think her team's ready for a jump in her third year in the program? Talk to her in just a little bit, and I want to talk to you the rest of the time at 719-247-1313. It is the text and the phone line for your convenience. So fire away. I'd love to get your thoughts on what I'm going to start the show with here. Because I have seen, inevitably, because we do this with everything in sports, especially when you're coming off of an event the magnitude of the Olympics, you get into the discussions about best ever. Best player, best shot, best game, best. And it's a natural place to go. And I'm not surprised that I have seen people make arguments that, or at least pose the question, is LeBron above Michael Jordan? He has more gold medals now. Not only does he have more gold medals, he was arguably Team USA's best player. I saw somebody say that Steph Curry's shot is the greatest shot in the history of basketball. And part of me wishes that we can have these conversations, like, legitimately. But I know that as time goes on, what happened in Paris is going to leave the conversation. For Steph Curry, what the semifinal against Serbia and the final against France, to me, it acted like the 2023 NBA Finals, where you're reminded, even though we get so caught up in LeBron James, that Steph Curry is also generational in his talent. And we don't talk about him enough, because we get so fired up about everything that LeBron James does that he's like this black hole of basketball conversation. And I'm not trying to take anything away from the accomplishment of any of these players, but the only other sport where there's even close to this kind of sentiment is women's soccer. Right? Women's soccer, the World Cup, I think, still carries more weight. But in every other sport that was competed in Paris, that's their biggest stage. That's everything that we talk about. When we talk about Simone Biles or Katie Ledecky or Michael Phelps, we don't talk about world championships. We don't talk about national championships. It's all about the gold medals. It's all about the Olympics. Even with women's basketball, because of the lack of popularity of the WNBA, we do talk about, like, when it comes to Diana Taurasi, the number of gold medals that she has. But with men's basketball, we just don't. So I'm listening to all these conversations and they're fun. But it doesn't matter to us the way that the Olympics matter in virtually every other sport. It doesn't mean we don't enjoy them. It doesn't mean we don't take pride in them. It doesn't mean we don't recognize the accomplishment. But we just don't include. Take the MJ LeBron debate. When do we legitimately ever bring up gold medals? And now we're supposed to look at the gold medals LeBron has and say, well, he's better than Michael Jordan. When has that ever been a piece of the conversation? When has the reason why people say that LeBron isn't better than Michael ever been about the fact that Michael Jordan had more gold medals or had the same amount, so you go to a tiebreaker? It's never brought up. So why all of a sudden now, because LeBron passes Michael Jordan? I think that's the other half of the reason. The first half is because it's happening right now in front of our face. The immediacy of it. But I think it's being used by people who already believe that LeBron James is the GOAT, and they want another thing. They think this is another thing they can throw into the mix and sway people. And they can't. I have a perfect local example. If the Olympics and men's basketball meant as much in our basketball conversations as people over the last couple of days want to make it, Carmelo Anthony would be recognized as one of the greatest players of his generation. Until Kevin Durant just passed him, he was the greatest American Olympic basketball player ever. Ever. Bring up Carmelo Anthony to anybody. It's Denver, it's New York. Never talk about what he did in the Olympics. We bring it up here just because we have a more well-rounded view of Carmelo, and we can talk about what going to the Olympics meant for his career. And he was just on a podcast the other day saying he wouldn't trade his medals for an NBA championship. And I love that sentiment. Think LeBron would take any of his championships and trade them for gold medals? Think Steph Curry is looking at this experience and saying, man, I would take one of my Warriors titles and trade it in for another gold medal. I want 2 gold medals, and now I just have 1. It's the way that we're conditioned. The NBA means exponentially more. And so while now we're having these conversations, but I mean, really think about it. Has anybody on Team USA, anybody, changed your perspective on who they are, what they have accomplished, how great they are based on what you just saw? Anybody? LeBron, Steph, KD, Joel Embiid? Devin Booker? Devin Booker was kind of the quiet MVP. Steve Kerr couldn't stop. He brought him up unprompted. What Devin Booker meant to that basketball team. It's not going to change what Devin Booker is in basketball people's minds at all. Steph Curry's not now better than LeBron James because of what he did in those 2 games. But yet I've seen people arguing it. I saw somebody Steph Curry's shot is the greatest shot in the history of basketball over any one of the number of shots that Michael Jordan made? How about a Robert Horry shot? Take one of Robert Horry's shots. Do you think that Steph Curry's shot is going to be held above one of Robert Horry's clutch shots? Or the alley-oop from Kobe to Shaq? Like, we're just too far down the road here. And I would love for the Olympics to be more in the conversation. And I tried to sprinkle it in when we had our Goat of Goats tournament. But I know that didn't sway anybody. Not with NBA players. And it's kind of like, and you wonder why LeBron didn't play in more Olympics, or why in the past it's been a struggle to get the game's biggest stars to play in them. When they go, they love it. When they go, they can't get enough of it. It's one of the best things they've ever done, the most fun they've ever had playing basketball. But you have to drag them kicking and screaming. You have to make an appointment and hope that they have a light summer that they'll be like, yeah, I guess I'll compete in this. Why is that? Because of the very conversation I'm starting on this show. Winning a gold medal does very little to move the needle for these players, and losing one is catastrophic. It is almost completely downside. Now, maybe these Olympics, maybe they can start to change the conversation, because I think what fuels this a lot is that we have been so dominant for so long that it's just like we can't look at winning a gold medal in the Olympics as an accomplishment akin to winning an NBA title or winning an MVP or winning a scoring title or being all NBA. Heck, we don't even look at it in a higher regard than all-star appearances. And all that is a popularity contest. People bring up all-star appearances for NBA players before they bring up Olympics. And I do think a large part of that has to do with the fact that it was so easy. And it's like, well, come on. How can we really hold this accomplishment as a high regard when we're blowing out every team by 30? And we had that one moment with the Redeem team where we were reminded or shown our own mortality if we didn't send our best. And then we won it again and we kind of celebrated and then we kind of moved on. And then it was back to, like, we enjoyed the Olympics. That gold medal game was the most watched basketball game of the last calendar year. But as time passes, I just don't think what Team USA did in Paris is going to be talked about when we're having these LeBron MJ debates. These, best player in the world conversations. Not when it comes to an American player. And that's the thing, is that you look at Serbia and Nikola Jokic and those guys arrived, and it was like Serbia's Independence Day. I mean, the streets were flooded. It was unbelievable, the scene. Welcoming them back. It means everything to them. Novak Djokovic breaking down. It when he won his gold medal, it means far more, I think, to international athletes. But especially when it comes to basketball, it means everything to Nikola Jokic, to Giannis Antetokounmpo, to Luka Doncic. It just doesn't register in that way here in the United States. I'm not here to say it's a good or a bad thing. I'm just simply pointing out the fact of the matter. I would love these conversations to be real. I don't think that they are. Take your thoughts on it, though. 719-247-1313. Does what happened in these Olympics, will you use that in your arguments? Will you bring it up when you're talking about the greatness of a player or a moment, or talk about the best moment for a player? Just getting going on this Tuesday edition of the show. Coming up next, Air Force women's soccer gets ready to kick off. That's a pun. Their season on Thursday. The head coach entering season 3 at the helm, Laura Busby, my guest next. Welcome back. Drive Time Sports coming up this Thursday. Air Force Women's Soccer opens up their season in Greeley. 1 week after that, they will have their home opener against Cal Baptist. My guest is entering her third season as head coach at the Air Force Academy. Laura Busby joins me now. Coach, appreciate having you on. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
So you guys had a couple of tune-ups for the season. How did those go?
Yeah, we started off on the road. We had a preseason trip to Utah, which was largely a team bonding trip for us. So just some great quality time, especially getting our freshmen coming straight out of basic training and into preseason. So it was a productive trip. Utah was certainly a challenge for us. I thought they were organized and athletic and played good football. So it was a great challenge for us on the road to start with, and learned a lot. Did some video after that game, and then we also had a second scrimmage, and I would say against DU up at DU this weekend, and also a really organized football playing team. So just two good matchups for us to kick off the season. We're a pretty young squad with only two seniors this year. So just a great opportunity to get everyone some playing time and get acquainted to our system of play as well.
And those times where you can kind of get away and bond a little bit as a team, so important. But at the same time, you're very job oriented, right? The job is to get you ready for the season in a very difficult Mount West conference. But when you're scheduling these, how much of it is, just what you talked about at first, getting this team on the road and together and kind of going through that, and how much of it is, I want to schedule an opponent that's going to get us ready for that opener?
Yeah, I would say it's probably 50-50. I think both of those teams certainly challenged us. Like, you want to be broken down from a soccer standpoint so that you can look at the video and learn from it. I think if we just scheduled a team that we knew we were going to put a ton of balls in the back of the net, would maybe feel good, but certainly wouldn't teach us as much about our team and kind of where we need to improve. So I would say we look to challenge ourselves. Last year we played Montana in preseason, did our trip out there, and they're a good side as well. So I think just finding a quality opponent that's going to challenge us and break us down when it doesn't really matter, so that we can learn from it. And then feel more prepared going into our first game. But yeah, I mean, the team bonding side of it is super important as well. I mean, we kind of pride ourselves on our team culture, and I think we've got a great group of upperclassmen that are kind of teaching our freshmen the ropes. And so that always helps from a leadership standpoint, just to kind of create those norms within our team culture. But just an opportunity to get off base. We did a cooking competition. We took them to the Olympic training park, and did some fun stuff there as well. So yeah, just an opportunity for them to come together both on the field and off the field.
I've spoken, Laura Busby, my guest, the head coach of the Air Force women's soccer team. I've talked to some of your colleagues up there at the academy, whether it's Frank Serratori, whether it's Chris Gobrecht, Joe Scott. I mean, Troy Calhoun, any of them will always talk about the best teams that they can have are the old teams, but yet they're perpetually chasing a veteran-laden group, and you're kind of in the same boat. You've been here for 3 years, but your team still so young. From a talent perspective, though, do you think that you have brought in the players in your time that a jump in the Mount West, a very difficult conference, do you think you have the talent to get ready to take kind of that next step, whatever that may look like to you in the Mount West Conference?
Yeah, I do this year. Obviously, our goal is to make playoffs. We've been 1 point off the last 2 years, and I think this year's freshman class is our first complete recruiting class, which sounds kind of crazy because we've been here for 2 seasons now. But, with early recruiting the way that it is and the timing of our hire in March, that first recruiting class was completely committed when we got here. And then last year's class, I think 7 of them were committed by the previous staff. So we've had to be patient in terms of bringing in our own players and ultimately ones that we think suit kind of our style of play. And but I think at the same time, we've been able to help the ones that were on the team previously kind of get acquainted to this new style of play. And so I've been really pleased with just the growth that our group has had over the past 2 years. And I think with the new talent coming in this year in the freshman class, I think we'll have the right mixture of both experience, not necessarily by the way of a large senior class, but just 2 years under their belt of our coaching has really benefited us. Like, I recognized that in preseason this year. The learning curve was just not nearly as large as it was last year. The past 2 seasons, I kind of felt like I started over, even though we made progress in the spring season, felt like I was kind of starting over. But I think the soccer IQ of our incoming class is high, combined with our upperclassmen just having 2 years under their belt of our coaching. So I feel like we have the right mixture this year to accomplish our goals.
You mentioned style of play. For those who may not have seen your team play and are getting ready to come out there starting next week against Cal Baptist and hopefully many more times over the course of the season, what is a staple of a Coach Busby coach soccer team? What playing style, what do you hope that the fans see when they come out and watch your team?
Yeah, I think we're always going to outwork our opponent. I think that's kind of ingrained in our players just being at the academy. I mean, they're tough kids. They're gritty. They're hardworking. I never have to motivate them in terms of work ethic. So that's something that I think if you came to watch us play, you would see. Regardless of the score, they're going to fight and compete at the highest level. So I think in terms of style of play, we're organized on the defensive side of the ball. Of course, early on in the season, you're still kind of working through some things to get to that point. But I think come Mountain West play, we want to be extremely organized on the defensive side of the ball, and we want to counterattack quickly when we win it. So I think those are kind of staples of our program, which has come quite easily to this group of players. I mean, they communicate well. They're all leaders on and off the field, and tremendous kids. So, like I said, I never have to coach motivation with them. And so it's been great for them to just kind of absorb the soccer side of it and kind of increase their soccer IQ over the last 2 years. But we're certainly a possession-oriented team, whereas I think, prior to our staff coming in, they were much more direct. And so I think that adjustment has taken some time, but we certainly outpossessed many of our opponents last year. We just struggled to score goals. So I'm hoping with a few new pieces in the mix this year, we'll be able to solve that. And
no team pins all of their hopes and dreams on one player. But when you lose someone like Chaley Sherman, obviously it changes things. Having her back, I mean, what does that do for your attack?
Yeah. Chaley, she's looked great. You wouldn't even know that she's come back from an ACL. And so, yeah, she's fit. She looks great. She played in both of the first 2 scrimmages. We're kind of working her back in minutes-wise to make sure that we progress her. But, she's just ready for us to take the reins off of her, so to speak. And so we're excited for what she can bring back to the team this year. We certainly did miss her down the home stretch last year, but I think to your point, I think we've typically not been a team that hangs their hat on one person scoring all of our goals. We've kind of scored by committee. So I think there's a few other players that could step up for us this year as well.
What progress do you want to see Chase Borntrager make in the midfield this season for you for her sophomore year?
Yeah, she's one of those other players that I was speaking about. She had a great spring season. She was one of our fittest players. I think the academy is a tough place your freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for all of them, just figuring out, how to get sleep, how to recover, how to take care of your body. I think in the fall last year, we just didn't see the best of Chase. And so she kind of came off the bench for us in times. I think probably the CC game last year, the last game of the season, you kind of saw some of the qualities that she brings to the table. But she really had a great spring season for us. And so I'm excited about what she has to offer. We're still kind of working through where she fits positionally. But regardless, I mean, she's a talented dribbler of the ball. She advances the ball. She can beat players 1v1 and she can strike it with both feet. So we're really excited about what she'll bring to the team this fall.
Laura Busby, head coach of the Air Force women's soccer team, my guest here on Drive Time Sports. You talked about defensively your identity and how important that is. I got to imagine the players in front of goal are going to be even more important early in this season because it's a bit of a different looking group in between the pipes, so to speak. How do you feel defensively about your goalkeeping situation, but also how important the players directly in front of them are going to be here early on?
Yeah, so we had two seniors that played for us in goal last year. So anytime that you lose a senior goalkeeper or two, you're going to feel that. But Kylie McElroy, she stepped up in the spring for us, and she's looked really good in both of our scrimmages as well. She's grown a ton, I think, through those goalkeepers' leadership last year. And so we're really excited to kind of see what she can bring to the table this year with a new face in goal. In front of her, Hannah Johnson has kind of been a staple in our back line, and she's a senior this year and our captain. So I think Hannah's one of the most consistent players that I've ever coached. I think just in terms of her mindset and her ability on the ball. And I've seen her grow a ton over the past 2 years as well. But I think with her being our captain and really accustomed to what we ask of her back there, I think, she's going to provide great leadership across our back line. We did unfortunately lose one of our starting backline players in the spring to an ACL. So we'll likely have some new faces across our back line or some upperclassmen that step up into that role, or potentially a freshman as well. So I would say we're still kind of working through exactly what our back line is going to look like. But I would say, across the two scrimmages that we had, they seem solid, and I think that's a testament to Hannah's leadership back there, of just working through those things over the past 2 years. The rest of the players that have kind of stepped up in those positions, knowing exactly what they need to do to play in a 3-back system.
Well, the Falcons get things started for real on Thursday in Greeley, and then 1 week from Thursday, it will be the home opener against Cal Baptist, and then the always tough Hawaii trip for Laura Busby's team. Coach, really looking forward to seeing you guys this season. Appreciate the time today, and go get them later this week.
Thanks. Appreciate the time and for having me on the show.
Yep, my pleasure. Laura Busby, the head coach of the Air Force women's soccer team, heading into her 3rd year at the helm. And I mentioned it in our conversation. Obviously, talking to Frank Serratori as much as I do, and Chris Gobrecht, and I'm sure Stacey McIntyre is going to feel the same way. Air Force is, you look at the best Air Force teams, no matter what the sport, it's when they're, as Frank puts it, when they're old, right? Well, college sports in a lot of ways is getting older, but Air Force can't. It's like Air Force is one of those schools that you think, oh, they can, they can keep their athletes, and they can for multiple years and things like that, and they can certainly grow it. And when you see these players progress from their freshman year to their junior or senior year, it's amazing to watch. But it's like you have, and Coach Busby deals with it. You got fifth year seniors, you got transfers that have played a lot of soccer, and it's tough. And she says the talent is there, which is the first step, and then you just want that talent to mature, and then it pays certainly big time dividends down the road. And you heard her, playoffs. That's the expectation this year for the Falcons. Again, their home opener 1 week from Thursday against Cal Baptist. Go AirForceFalcons.com to get all the details that you may need when it comes to the Air Force women's soccer team. Take a break. On the other side, we got so caught up in one of the Broncos rookies yesterday that we didn't really get a chance to talk about the others, and there were a couple that stood out from Sunday's win against Indianapolis. The Colorado State Fair and Rodeo is coming back to Pueblo August 23rd through September 2nd, loaded with free attractions, a carnival, a great concert lineup. This concert lineup I've been talking about for the last couple of days. It's terrific. Spinners and the Commodores together, Ludacris, Trace Atkins, the Goo Goo Dolls, and many more. It is like the pancake breakfast. We do it every year. I guess the pancake breakfast, they do it every month. It is a must. You can't officially say goodbye to summer until you get a few days at the Colorado State Fair. Get your tickets, plan your trip at coloradostatefair.com. So true to form, and I've talked about this with the Broncos rookie class, a class that Sean Payton likened to his first in New Orleans, that laid the foundation for the Saints becoming, over his time, one of the better teams consistently in the NFL. And really what will tell the tale of whether this is a good draft class or not is how Bo Nix plays. Right? That's what everybody's going to judge it on. So far, so good. But you look at these other rookies, and Audric Estime on Sunday, certainly Sean Payton made a concerted effort to get him carries, to see him. He had the fumble, but looked like the guy that Audric Estime is supposed to be, right? Like this bruising, battering ram of a running back. And he did look the part. And you know he's going to be in the mix. Not above Jaleel McLaughlin, not above Javonte Williams. But the way that Sean Payton handles running backs, Audric Estime is going to have an impact on the Denver Broncos this year. The other guys it's a little bit more cloudy in terms of what kind of impact they will have, because two in particular that I'm thinking of, Jonah Ellis and Troy Franklin, are in very crowded position rooms. Crowded with quality, not elite, right? Because there aren't really any position groups that the Denver Broncos have other than the cornerback room, elite talent, right? Pat Surtain is the only player that you would characterize as elite. But when you look at the pass rushing group, Nick Benito was a second round pick. Baron Browning has had his moments, and he kind of seems like the number one guy. And then you just go down the line and you're like, well, I don't know how much Jonah Ellis is going to. I know he's going to be out on the field, but what kind of impact is he going to make? Is he going to be high profile this year? Because that's kind of the bar that Sean Payton has put. Like, he's calling these guys foundational pieces. You want to see those foundational pieces year one, right? So there are a lot of guys ahead of Ellis on the depth chart. But if you play like you did on Sunday, this is the other side of the coin when it comes to that group. Yeah, there are guys that you recognize, guys that you've seen flash for the Denver Broncos, and Baron Browning and Nick Benito. But number two on the Denver Broncos is the only guy that can walk around knowing that he is one of the best at his position. That does create an opportunity. It's a crowded room, but the opportunity is still there for Jonah Ellis. And I thought outside of Bo Nix, he was the most impressive of the Broncos rookies on Sunday. And I'll be curious if he and I'm not necessarily talking about a depth chart, I'm just talking about playing time. If they move Ellis a little bit more to the front of the line here to see what he can bring. Because as solid as that Broncos pass rushing duo is, or not duo, but group, you really would like to have a guy, right? And certainly the Broncos over the years have had that, have had a guy. And I know things went downhill with Bradley Chubb, but there was a moment where Bradley Chubb was a guy. Like, hey, we need to get to the quarterback on this pivotal third down. We have a guy that can go get him. Right? It was Vaughn, and then it was Vaughn and DeMarcus Ware, and then it was Vaughn and Bradley Chubb, and then it was just Bradley Chubb. Broncos don't really have that. You like Baron Browning. You think Benito certainly made strides from his rookie year to year two, but none of them have shown that they're elite pass rushers. That when you absolutely need someone to break through the line and get to the quarterback, you don't have that feeling about anybody in that room. So if Jonah Ellis can show those flashes, which he did on Sunday against, albeit guys at the same part of the depth chart for Indy as Jonah Ellis currently is for the Denver Broncos, which is near the back of the line. If he could start to show that, that's why I want to see more of him against Green Bay. Whenever somebody lower on the depth chart shows out and it happens to be, a rookie, and a rookie that's a part of a class that Sean Payton has talked about the way he's talked about this class, I want to see more of Jonah Ellis. I want to see tougher matchups and see what he can do. Now, he can fit in with Baron Browning and Nick Benito, and Vance Joseph can just send his pass rusher in waves and hope it will be kind of a collective group effort to get sacks. But if they can get a guy to emerge and be that one that you can count on, that would obviously be huge for the Denver Broncos. So outside of Bo Nix, I thought Ellis was the best rookie that the Broncos had. Now, I don't process what I see the way that Pro Football Focus does. So if you're into that sort of thing, Chris Abrams-Drain is your guy. 5th highest rated Bronco in Sunday's win over Indianapolis. I believe the highest rated rookie. I don't even think Bo Nix was above him on that list. And that's why I say I don't compute things the way that Pro Football Focus does, because to me, it was clear and obvious that not only was Bo Nix their best rookie, Bo Nix was their best player against Indianapolis. So take a Pro Football Focus grade how you usually take Pro Football Focus grades. But they thought that the rookie out of Missouri showed some things. And unlike with Ellis and Troy Franklin, who I've yet to bring up, I will in a moment, there's opportunity. There certainly is. I mean, every year waiting for Riley Moss to take a step forward. That spot opposite Pat Surtain, it's an important spot. So I think there's opportunities for Abrams-Drain there, maybe not quite as crowded of a room, although he does have a holdover from last year and a guy that the Broncos have liked for a couple of years as a young player in Riley Moss. And then you have Troy Franklin, who I characterize as my favorite Broncos pick. To pair him with Bo Nix, and I know Sean Payton said it's not that big of a deal. I think he's kind of underplaying it. I think the fact that Troy Franklin and Bo Nix were so dynamic together at Oregon, I think it matters, and I think it's worth exploring. Sean Payton went a different route. Didn't see a lot of Troy Franklin. But like the pass rushing room, there are a lot of dudes. A lot of guys in there. And I expect that wide receiver room to look quite a bit different next year. But in the meantime, you have Sutton, you have Mims, you have Patrick. So if I were ranking them, obviously Bo Nix would be 1, Ellis would be 2. Probably Estime for me would be 3. Drain, because I just don't see it the way Pro Football Focus did. I didn't see anything that made me say Chris Abrams-Drain is not good. He just didn't stand out to me. But then Troy Franklin's probably last in that group there. Even though we're going to look at this draft class based on how good Bo Nix is, the way that Sean Payton has talked about him, they need at least a couple of these guys to hit. And we'll see if Ellis kind of continues and if the other guys kind of show a little bit more than maybe what they did against Indianapolis. And look, it's what makes what Bo Nix did Sunday so exciting if you're a Broncos fan. Right? And to a lesser extent what Jonah Ellis did, because you're not expecting it. Right? The baseline is look like you belong. Look like you understand what's going on around you. So we don't expect rookies to flash. But when they do, it is a nice surprise. And Bo Nix did in spades. And that kind of also hurt the other rookies, because you look around and you're like, wasn't too impressed with the other rookies. Why can't they all play like Bo Nix did? Because Bo Nix is the teacher's pet. They've put more work into him, I think, over the few weeks of training camp than the other guys. Not to say they're not bringing those other guys along. Just, every class has a teacher's pet. And they seem to get, even though they're maybe one of the best students in the class, they still seem to get all the attention from the teacher. That's Bo Nix right now. And you saw the byproduct of that. Now this week, like to see a little bit more. And I think I had to go back and rewatch the game, because I realized at the end of it, I was just solely focused on Bo Nix. Like that to every note that I wrote down, almost every note I wrote down was about Bo Nix. And I think I should have known that was going to be the case, but I needed to give it a second watch because I saw some of the numbers and I had to go back and I didn't notice that guy, and go back and look, because it was just Bo Nix. And it might have to do the same thing against Green Bay. Watch it once for Bo Nix, watch it a second time for everybody else. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the Broncos preseason opener. Maybe you didn't tune in yesterday, didn't get a chance to give your thoughts on Bo Nix. I allow you to do that at 719-247-1313, because coming up next, I want to talk about Bo Nix. And what I did not see a lot from Bo Nix that I hope to in the second preseason game for the Denver Broncos. Welcome in, Drive Time Sports. Ryan Kaufman with you. You know, if you are so inclined, you can always watch the show. All you need to do is follow us on one or more of your favorite social media platforms: Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube. Our handle is all the same on any one of those sites at XTRA Sports 1300. And you can watch the show. And while you're there, interact with the show. Handy feature. Allows you to, if you post on our Facebook, it'll be like you're texting into the show. So thank you to those of you watching currently or have watched. And I invite those of you who haven't watched the show on social media to do so if you are so inclined. Bo Nix was good on Sunday. No way around it. There's no box that I wanted him to check that he had to check against Indianapolis that he didn't. Like, this is a progression. As much as people are ready to, buy that Bo Nix jersey with no worry whatsoever that in a couple of years he'll be gone or anything like that. And I get that. I get all the excitement, but this is a progression. It's not that what you saw from Bo Nix is going to be good enough on a consistent basis to win football games for the Denver Broncos. It's just not. That stat line is not going to get it done. But in not playing an entire game, it being his first NFL game ever, understanding that the training wheels are still on this guy, he absolutely did what you would want to see from him. But he's got to add to it, right? We're at the floor now. And then soon the conversation will shift to what his ceiling is. The next step, and I'd like to see it against Green Bay on Sunday. I don't know how much we will. But I think the next thing for Bo Nix, I got to see him push the ball downfield. And look, Sean Payton, the way that Bo Nix ran the offense is the way Sean Payton wants it run. The types of throws he were making, the gains they were making is what Sean Payton's offense is going to be this year with Bo Nix, for the most part. But if this team has designs on winning games, there will come multiple times during a game where Bo Nix has got to go deeper down the field. 6 yards per completion is not going to get it done. And Bo Nix knows that. Sean Payton knows that. You know that as well as I know that. But that's the next layer. I thought maybe the best throw, the throw to Mims for the touchdown was a really good throw. My favorite Bo Nix throw from Sunday was the throw to Jaleel McLaughlin. Now, this isn't a Russell Wilson moonball that he threw, but it was down the field. It was a big play. And he put the right amount of touch on it to not only lead Jaleel McLaughlin down the field, allow him to run under that ball, but how many times do you see that kind of wheel route by a running back and the defender gets in there to either break up the pass or absolutely light up the receiver? Right? The timing of the pass and the touch of the pass was exactly what it needed to be. To allow Jaleel McLaughlin to run under it, to catch it, and to be able to decide to do something. That's what you want that play to be. And that was a downfield throw. It wasn't, what you picture Drew Brees making, but we'll see those. We'll see what Bo Nix can do. And look, it's one of the things that was a criticism of him. There were really two big questions about Bo Nix that were held by a lot of people. One is the deep ball. Right? Can he push it downfield? Because chunk plays, explosive plays. We've had a couple of different names for it when it comes to the Broncos over the last few years, but it always seems to rear its ugly head. The Broncos aren't getting the ball down the field in big chunks. Whether it's Sean Payton or Nathaniel Hackett or Vic Fangio or Vance Joseph, it feels like it's not. With some, it's been dink and dunk, but it's just 5 yards here, 7 yards here. Maybe you get a 10-yard play, but then it's a 3-yard play, and it's a -1 play, and then it's a 2-yard, and now you're in a long third down. Bo Nix is going to have to throw the ball downfield. And he's going to have to throw the ball downfield with accuracy. He's going to have to. And maybe another one of those throws that would kind of be with the Jaleel McLaughlin throw if Josh Reynolds would have caught that ball. If that would have been a touchdown, that probably would have been the best throw that Bo Nix made, because only Josh Reynolds was going to catch that ball in the corner of the end zone. That's a downfield throw. Right? 12, 15, 17. It doesn't have to be everything that Bo Nix does, but that's one of the questions about him is, can he hit those plays? Because about the only thing that Russell Wilson gave the Denver Broncos over the last couple of years was the ability to hit those plays. And there's a place and time for those plays, and every good football team has a quarterback that can make those plays. So I want to see if Sean Payton will draw up a play where Bo Nix is asked to throw it downfield. Can you do it once a drive, twice a drive? That's kind of the next step in his evolution, in his progress. I want to see some of that. Because the other big question around Bo Nix coming out of Oregon, I think Bo Nix answered quite well, and that was his ability to run with the football. And Nix, after the game, gave his philosophy when it comes to scrambling.
Very confident. I think I train for that, and I make sure that I work, to keep some of that. And I think it's big when plays break down. It's important to be able to extend plays. I think it's really beneficial for the offense, and you never know when you'll need it. So it's always good to train it, and it's good to have.
And he showed that off when he hit that third down completion to Cortland Sutton. He was scrambling, and he was getting ready to run with that football. But one of the best things about Bo Nix on Sunday, and I talked about this on yesterday's show, he was always looking upfield. Right? He's not going to be Lamar Jackson. He's not going to be Josh Allen. He's not going to be Russell Wilson in his prime. He's not he doesn't have that. He's not going to even be able to be like that sneaky fast level of Patrick Mahomes, right? You watch him run and you're like, Patrick Mahomes is slow, but yet nobody is catching him. And he's running for 15, 20 yards. And it looks really weird when he does it. Bo Nix doesn't have that. But how much of that did Drew Brees have? Right? And I don't want to keep making the Drew Brees Bo Nix comparison. My point is, in today's NFL, if you're the type of quarterback Peyton Manning is, if you're the type of quarterback Tom Brady is, you may not have a ton of success. Right? You win from the pocket, absolutely. But you got to have that tool in your kit to be able to take off. And all the Broncos would need is just Bo Nix on a third down to get 7 yards. Right? And because you do want him first and foremost, even though he's scrambling to keep a play alive, that's great. But you still, the ideal scenario is that he does what he did with Cortland Sutton on that third down. Not look down, look up, see the man break open, and then get rid of it, extending the plays. Bo Nix doesn't have to be this scrambler, doesn't have to be Ken Stabler. And I thought in brief glimpses, he showed that, yeah, he can move a little bit. Now, can he do it with the first team defense on the field? Can he do it consistently? Can he make the right decisions with the football when he's in that situation consistently? But I thought he was able to move a little bit, keep plays alive, gain those 5 to 7 yards that are not highlight reel plays, but they're crucial for a drive that maybe is stalling out or the ability to stay ahead of the chains. So as we look forward to the encore from Bo Nix, more throws downfield, and then keep showing a little bit of that ability to scramble, keep plays alive. I think that's kind of the next part of this as we progress towards Bo Nix being the starter week 1 in Seattle. 719-247-1313. Oh, and then make sure that he doesn't take any sacks. That's also very important.
Listen, the ball's out. I like the timing, the tempo of when we're releasing it. That was a big issue for us a year ago with the minus plays. We were towards the back half of the league.
Some shade at Russell Wilson. I just wanted to. Sean Payne's not done throwing shade at Russell Wilson. 719-247-1313. What did you see that you liked from Bo Nix on Sunday? What do you want to see more of or him to add to the mix for Sunday's game against Green Bay? The big news of the afternoon, other than people staying perpetually on Brandon Ayuk watch in Pittsburgh. And at this point, if the Steelers don't get Brandon Ayuk, I think we just need to all chip in and do a collective well check on people in Pittsburgh. Because I don't know how they are going to handle if this thing falls through and Brandon Ayuk stays with the 49ers. I don't know how. They have built it up so much getting Brandon Ayuk that it would be extremely detrimental for Steeler Nation to not get Brandon Ayuk. So that's still going on. But some unfortunate news in the NFL today. J.J. McCarthy has a torn meniscus and is going to need some surgery. Now, it's a setback, right? And outside of Caleb Williams and Bo Nix, I think J.J. McCarthy was the most impressive of the rookie quarterbacks. And I thought all of them, all the rookie quarterbacks had moments where you said, okay, that's why that team drafted him. That's why except the Falcons. I still don't understand why they took Michael Penix, but that's not because of Michael Penix's ability. But all these rookies, I thought had a very good first week. Some were just in much smaller sample sizes. J.J. McCarthy was closer to Bo Nix when it came to the amount of run he got, and he threw the interception, but he also threw 2 touchdowns. So I probably have it Caleb 1, Bo Nix 2, J.J. McCarthy 3. Because of sample size, Penix 4, Jaden Daniels 5, and Drake May 6th. But I thought if you're a fan of any one of those teams, then you're pleased. But here's kind of the silver lining when it comes to J.J. McCarthy. And I think the hierarchy that I put these quarterbacks in is important because I think Caleb Williams is the quarterback that is going to be most relied upon, most crucial to his team's success. And this is a team that some people, I think, have a chance to make the postseason. Bo Nix is probably second. And I'd probably go Jaden Daniels third. And then the other guys behind him, because J.J. McCarthy isn't the starter. Sam Darnold is. J.J. McCarthy was going to be one of those guys that you'd see, I don't know, when the Vikings bye week. But that's when J.J. McCarthy watch would take place. When Vikings are inching towards that bye week, where are they at? Are they in a good spot? Are they not? I mean, Kevin O'Connell won games with Josh Dobbs last year, so I don't expect the Vikings to be objectively terrible. But the plan is to go to J.J. McCarthy. I just don't think it's for week one. So obviously there's a worst case scenario where the thing's completely torn, completely needs to be, and he's done for the year. But I mean, there's the possibility that he's given a clean bill of health by week one. You just got to see how bad this thing is. But J.J. McCarthy was not going to be the starter week one. So if this happened to Nix, if this had happened to Caleb, if this happened to Jaden Daniels, people would be jumping off of roofs in here, Chicago, and Washington. With J.J. McCarthy, I think all things considered, it's not that bad. Unless, of course, it becomes that doomsday scenario where McCarthy now is basically his rookie year is done. So he's going to go under the knife, and then we'll find out the severity of this thing and whether J.J. McCarthy will be available and when for the Minnesota Vikings. But Sam Darnold's the guy for now. So this news does not hit the way it would in Chicago or Denver or DC. 719-247-1313. Coming up next, want to get back into the discussion when it comes to the Olympics with basketball. Are you taking anything from Paris and applying it to your day-to-day basketball conversations? Could be as big as the GOAT conversation between LeBron and Michael. It could be just how you view a player in terms of being the best in the NBA. Are you going to look back at Steph Curry's shot and say that that ranks up there with Jordan over Elo or Jordan over Russell? I'm skeptical. I'll take your thoughts on it next here on Extra Sports 1300. Four-time platinum rapping recording artist Ludacris is coming to the Colorado State Fair in Pueblo Saturday, August 31st. See his unrivaled match of lyrical acumen, wit, and imagery, and throw some bows by getting your tickets at coloradostatefair.com. Need Southern hospitality. Need Moneymaker. I don't think Pharrell is going to show up with him, but I need that song. I'm putting together the dream set list for Ludacris's concert. I'll report back to you. But yeah, drop bows on him. That was my favorite Ludacris song ever. coloradostatefair.com. 719-247-1313 is the text line and the phone line if you want to jump in on the conversation. Talking about what we saw from the U.S. men's basketball team in particular, because I think, and women's basketball would be an interesting conversation as well, but I think outside of basketball, every other sport, what we saw in Paris is just about the be-all, end-all. Right? Katie Ledecky, Simone Biles, fencing, climbing, cycling, track. Like, that's how we talk about these athletes, is what they do in the Olympics. With men's basketball, we don't. And I just have my doubts that what happened in Paris is going to have the staying power to mold basketball conversations moving forward. And I think what it would ultimately be on the positive side, because maybe there's a Jason Tatum or Joel Embiid conversation on the negative side when it comes to what happened in Paris. But on the positive side, like, you want to boost somebody's profile. KD becoming the all-time leading scorer in USA basketball history. Steph Curry's place in all of this, where he is in terms of the all-time greats. His shot and where that's going to rank for you when it comes to Steph Curry or just in basketball all time. And then, of course, the big one, MJ LeBron. On that last one, David texts in and says, MJ is the OG GOAT. He put the sport on the map with his skill and highlight reel plays so that one B greatest ever LeBron can be compared. And that's why Michael Jordan is the GOAT to me. And it feels like semantics, but I think it means everything. What Michael Jordan meant to the game of basketball, the dominance, the fear, the mysticism around this guy. Like, it just, and I acknowledge that 20 years from now, LeBron might be the unquestioned GOAT. But I'm still here, and I'm still going to say that it's Michael Jordan. And I'm going to tell my kids that it's Michael Jordan. And explain to them why. And is it unfair to LeBron James? Yeah, it is a little bit unfair to LeBron James, and I'll readily admit that. How can LeBron have the impact on basketball that Michael Jordan did? That's about timing. That's about the moment that you arrive. And he arrived in the NBA at the perfect moment. Bird and Magic got the league attention. Right? Got people to take the NBA seriously and watch it. And then here comes Michael And to David's point, people are just in awe of what he's able to do on a basketball court. And then the dream team happens and all of this kind of stuff. And it's not even the fact that he won a gold medal. That's like secondary. It's what rock stars they were. It wasn't even, oh, Michael got a gold medal, so he's the GOAT. It's what that all was. And there's nothing that LeBron can do about any of that. But you could bring up his all-time scoring title. You could bring up the championships he won with a lesser group around him than Michael did. I mean, I hear the arguments for LeBron. But one of those arguments I just don't believe is going to be he has 3 gold medals and Michael has 2. I don't see that. Even with as brilliantly as LeBron James played. LeBron James is the best all-around basketball player ever. He has some layers to his game and abilities that Michael didn't. As a talent, LeBron is above Michael, but there's so many other things that are so much bigger than points and steals and blocks that go into a GOAT conversation. So to me, the GOAT debate when it comes to these two, barring LeBron, and I was joking with somebody earlier, somebody that is on the side of LeBron saying, what can LeBron do to change your mind? I said win back-to-back titles the next 2 years with the Lakers and have Bronny be the NBA Finals MVP. Anything short of that, it's probably not going to change my mind. Because I put so much into the impact that Michael had. But the point of the conversation is whether LeBron can or cannot pass Michael Jordan. My premise is I don't think a 3rd gold medal is changing anybody's mind. Forget me. Does it change your mind? Are you going to use the fact that LeBron has more gold medals than Michael Jordan to make your argument that LeBron is the GOAT? Or better yet, do you think that that will change anybody's mind? You may use it because people that say LeBron is the GOAT will use everything, including the in-season tournament, to make their case because they're just grasping at straws. They know that they're fighting probably an unwinnable battle with people who are older than the age of 23. That's my premise here. Up and down the line. And we can even open it up to the bigger discussion. Does your mind change about who Jason Tatum is? As much talk as there was around Jason Tatum? Has it changed your mind at all one way or another? What about Joel Embiid? Did you think that Joel Embiid was great? Did you think he could play team basketball? Did you think that he would dominate and he didn't? And now your mind has changed about Joel Embiid and you're like, oh yeah, it's Jokic. My point is, I don't think anything about any one of these players changes at all. Who does Steph Curry jump in your mind based on what he just did in Paris? What he did was spectacular. It was amazing. I feel like I have Steph Curry in the right place. I feel pretty good about where Steph is. I just lament the fact that we don't marvel at Steph Curry maybe that's something that's changed, but that doesn't change where Steph Curry is. I just say, man, we spend way too much time talking about LeBron, and Steph Curry just year after year does his thing and makes unbelievable shots. It's funny. In the WNBA, a player like Steph Curry is everything. Driving viewership, and people are becoming fans of the league and everything because of Caitlin Clark's ability, and yet it's old hat in some way when it comes to Steph Curry. It's almost like you have to bring up, hey, do you like Caitlin Clark? There's a player in the NBA that does that too. His name is Steph Curry. So if anything, for any one of these players, changes in my view, it's just that I have spent not nearly enough time talking about Steph Curry's greatness. I know what it is. I know where I have him, and I feel like I have him in a good spot. I don't think he's better than LeBron. He's not Michael. I wouldn't put him in front of Magic or Bird or Kareem. Like, he's a fringe top 10, top 12 player all time. But that isn't impacted by what I saw in Paris. That's where I already had him. But for this generation, it's LeBron and it's him. And the amount of talk that one gets compared to the other one, it's disproportional. It's not what it should be. The ratio's all off. But it doesn't elevate Steph Curry above anybody. But as I said earlier, maybe it will change with this one. Maybe if in LA in 2028, it becomes even more of a struggle for the U.S., it takes even more heroics for them to win a gold medal. I feel like one Olympics isn't enough to do that. Maybe it's a second. Right? Maybe that gets the ball rolling a little bit to where we include the Olympics in the conversation when we're talking about these NBA players more. Now, this does no good for LeBron or KD or Steph Curry because none of them are going to be playing in LA. But maybe for a Tatum, for a Booker, maybe it will. Maybe Cooper Flagg will be the first NBA superstar that we include Olympics every time we talk about the guy. He could be the first of a new generation because Cooper Flagg will absolutely be on that team. And if he's not, then I am calling shenanigans. If it were possible, Grant Hill may have just swapped out Cooper Flagg for Jason Tatum on the spot after that scrimmage. Maybe he'll be the first of a new generation where we talk about the Olympics more and we let what happens in the Olympics influence our opinions on these players. But right now, it hasn't happened to this point, and I don't think it will happen based on what happened in Paris. 719-247-1313. Coming up next, Air Force has revealed their latest Air Power Legacy Series unis, and they are chef's kiss. Where do they rank all time? I'll tell you next. 719-247-1313. Couple of GOAT debate texts. I was asked today what LeBron would have to do in order to change my mind that Michael Jordan is the GOAT. I said he would have to win back-to-back titles and Bronny would have to be NBA Finals MVP. This is a good one, too, from the 719. Three-peat retire, then three-peat again and do it without a super team. Because there is a difference. Right? Michael Jordan had a great team around him. The Bulls are like the Warriors. Or like what so many teams are trying to do. They had their duo, right, with Pippen and Jordan, just like Nuggets have Murray and Jokic, and Dallas has Luka and Kyrie, built on the foundation of their duo, and then they supplement it with the right players to fill important roles to make themselves an well-rounded basketball team. So you get this shooting of Paxson or Kerr, you get the rebounding of Horace Grant, defending and rebounding of Horace Grant and Dennis Rodman. Not a super team. Those Bulls teams are nothing like the Heat teams that LeBron played on. Or even like, not even built like the Lakers were built. The 6-for-6, three-peats, that matters too. From the 719, the one thing that no one mentions is the pressure that LeBron has had since high school. What pressure did MJ or Steph have to deal with? We also don't talk about how the organization wanted to win and got MJ help, but LBJ had to leave to get great players. And I'm not a LeBron hater at all. And what you bring up is significant. There hasn't been an athlete in my lifetime that more has been expected than LeBron. You're absolutely right about that. That doesn't change who I think is the GOAT, but it certainly adds to LeBron's greatness. There's only one GOAT, but there are a lot of great players. LeBron is one of them. He's on the Mount Rushmore. He just doesn't topple MJ. Albert says, can we at least agree LeBron is the greatest 39-year-old ever? In any walk of life, even local sports talk radio? Yeah. I could still say LeBron is. As long as we can agree that much like the GOAT debate in basketball is only between Michael and LeBron, we're not going to include Kobe or Larry or Kareem in that because no, it's those two. As long as we can also say that the debate over who's the greatest 39-year-old ever is between LeBron and me, then yes, I can acknowledge that LeBron is the greatest 39-year-old. By an eyelash and several millions of dollars and, trophies and adoring fans. A few categories LeBron has. But it's like with Steph Curry. You watch Steph Curry and you are reminded that this guy is so freaking good. And we just don't talk about him enough. I think the takeaway from Paris is that LeBron is doing things as an elderly basketball player. By basketball standards, he is elderly. He's doing things we have never seen someone at that age do. We haven't even, to Albert's point, I mean, I would take what LeBron is doing at 39 over what Tom Brady did at 39. So I'm not saying that we just watch what happens in Paris and then we just sweep it to the side, never to bring it up again. Steph Curry's shot is going to be right there next to Vince Carter banishing that poor guy to the shadow realm on that dunk. Like, that's going to be the one, maybe the most indelible image of Olympic basketball that I'll ever have for the rest of my life. And the appreciation of what LeBron James, and that's what, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the Olympics. What's so great about the Olympics and why you can watch what LeBron is doing and what Kevin Durant is doing and really appreciate it is they don't have all the other garbage that their NBA legacies are littered with. It's just LeBron, the basketball player, at 39 years old, being the best player on the court every night until Steph Curry woke up. And then it was Chef and Kevin Durant just being an unbelievable scorer and the greatest scorer in the history of USA basketball. All that other stuff that is they bring on themselves. I'm not saying here playing a violin for LeBron James or Kevin Durant. They have done this to themselves. When that's stripped away, you could just appreciate how great they are. And then see them stand out with other great players and go, he's clearly better than all these other great players. So I'm not saying that there's nothing to take from Paris, that there aren't going to be conversations about what happened there. I just don't think it will be to the degree that some people have it framed over the last couple of days, that this tilts the scales in LeBron's favor in the GOAT debate or the Steph Curry shot. And I like Mike Greenberg, but that was the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. That Steph Curry shot is the greatest shot in the history of basketball? There's no way. And look, it's all good. You know, I love that people are getting swept up in the Olympics, and we live in that world a little bit more here in Colorado Springs than other places do. Like, I love that these are the conversations. I'm just saying I don't think that they're real, and I don't think they'll last. But you're going to always remember Steph Curry's shot. You're going to remember what LeBron James was able to do at 39 years old. You'll remember how good KD is when he's on an Olympic stage. And you'll remember how awful Joel Embiid was and how Jason Tatum got benched. That's the list of what you will remember from Paris. But I just don't think any of it translates to where we put these guys in terms of the best basketball players ever. Stick with this. I'll get to the Air Force. It may give you a chance if you are in a position to be able to look on social media, a look at our Twitter account and Facebook at Extra Sports 1300. And you can see, or if you follow Air Force football, their new Air Power Legacy Series unis. And these are really good. Really good. I talk about those. Don't have enough time right here, so we'll just stick with this. Tom says, Tom Brady took the sorry Tampa Bay Bucks to a Super Bowl title, and LeBron can't even get the great Lakers to the finals, and LeBron is more impressive. Yeah, what year was Tom Brady's age 39 season? 4,739 yards, 37 touchdowns. It was the greatest season ever for a 39-year-old QB. What year was that? 2017? And 2017, he was still in New England. So what he did in Tampa is not comparable. It's what he did in New England. And what he did in New England was great. But, I mean, we're debating greatness, but what LeBron is doing at 39 years old is pretty. People ruin it. You know what the problem is? People ruin it because they think that the Lakers are better than they are. I'll say this. This Laker team is not nearly as good as the 2017 New England Patriots. And I'm not trying to detract from Tom Brady. I'm just saying what LeBron James does in it's not a more physically violent sport, but is more physically demanding the NBA. And I don't want to get into can the NBA players play in the NFL? I'm not getting into that. I'm just saying what LeBron James has to be able to do as an NBA player at 39 years old is more than what Tom Brady was asked to do athletically at age 39 as a quarterback. So, yeah, what LeBron James is did this year at 39, the people just ruin it by taking every chance that they have to try and make the Lakers out to be title contenders. And I'm sorry, the NBA is too good now. When you have Anthony Davis, not Olympic Anthony Davis, you have normal Anthony Davis, who's still very good, and then your next best player is Austin Reeves. Sorry, you're not a very good basketball team. You're closer to what LeBron had in Cleveland before he left than what he had in Miami. That's the problem, is that people want to make the Lakers out to be a title contender. They're not, but you can also acknowledge that what LeBron James is doing at 39 years old is most impressive. And Tom said he was older when he won the Tampa title. Okay, well, when LeBron James gets older, we'll see. We're just talking about a snapshot in time at 39 years old. The problem is LeBron's not even going to make it as long as Brady will. I don't agree with you, Tom, but I do agree with you on your last point. You can't cry foul about Lakers roster because LeBron's the GM. That's true. And that's why Tom Brady was successful so often in New England, because he was not the GM. Now, every once in a while, he'd have his say, but he didn't terraform that team and hold them hostage. In fact, he did the opposite and kept giving them money to go spend on good players. That I agree with you. Age 39 general manager LeBron James, not good. Age 39 player LeBron James, very good. From the 719, LeBron jumped teams for titles. Remember when MJ began in the NBA, he was not allowed in the Olympics. Also, fair point. And then what was it? Doug Collins and all that stuff happened, and then that changed. It's a great point. Actually, it's an amazing point. Reason why I didn't even insert that into the conversation was my whole point is no one's bringing up the Olympics as a reason to put LeBron over Michael. But would Michael have more gold medals? Good talk. We could continue it. Got a whole nother hour of the program. I do want to take a moment, though, if you allow me, to tell you about QC Kinetics. And if you're dealing with arthritic joint pain that is keeping you from doing the things that you love, I want to tell you that there are exciting new cellular therapies that can get you lasting relief. And QC Kinetics is leading the way in this. I'll let them give you the whole lowdown on everything that goes into it because I don't have the time, and it's better coming from a medical professional. But what I can tell you is that these are cutting edge treatments that accelerate your own body's healing properties, revitalizing your joints so you can move again. If you're living with chronic pain from arthritis or injury, you need to know steroids, surgery, pain pills are no longer your only options. The local medical professionals at QC Kinetics are ready to help you get your life back with regenerative, restorative, cellular treatments for your achy joints. Certainly worth a free consultation. 719-347-1988. That's 719-347-1988. This is the future of medicine. QC Kinetics, 719-347-1988. Hello there. Welcome in. Drive Time Sports on this Tuesday. Ryan Kaufman with you. And I appreciate you being with me on this show, whether it's through your radio, via the internet, extrasports1300.com, or if you downloaded the Extra Sports 1300 app, which I highly recommend. It is sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health, and well-being. For all your thoughts can be sent my way at 719-247-1313. We've had a good little discussion today about the lasting impact of what you saw from the U.S. men's basketball team. How will you go forth with it? Will it change? Has it changed your perspective on any player? Has any player jumped up in your personal rankings because of what happened in Paris? Continue to take your thoughts on that. And then what's more impressive, what LeBron is doing as a 39-year-old or what Tom Brady did as a 39-year-old? I don't see Tom Brady winning any gold medals when he's 39. As a joke. If you've stuck around, then my whole premise is that I don't think that having one more gold medal than Michael Jordan is going to tip the scales in LeBron's favor when it comes to the GOAT debate. 719-247-1313. Let's get into the three stories that are driving the show, shall we? All right, let's start with the man of the hour, Bo Nix.
Very confident. I think I train for that, and I make sure that I work, to keep some of that. And I think it's big when plays break down. It's important to be able to extend plays. I think it's really beneficial for the offense, and you never know when you'll need it. So it's always good to train it, and it's good to have.
That is Bo Nix talking about one of the skill sets that coming into the draft, people were a little curious about. His ability to scramble, his ability to extend plays with his legs, take off if he needs to. I think he did do a pretty good job in game one showing off some of that with the best play, showcasing that third down to Cortland Sutton, where he kept the play alive, kept his eyes downfield, extended the play, and got the ball to Cortland Sutton. The other skill set that people had questions about when it came to Bo Nix coming out of Oregon, I think we didn't get enough of a sample size, and I'm curious if we're going to get a bigger sample size of it come Sunday against the Green Bay Packers. I think the next step in Bo Nix showcasing the promise that he holds is his ability to complete explosive down the field passing plays. Two of his best throws were down the field a little bit more, right? The one that went through Josh Reynolds' hands, and then the one he floated up for Jaleel McLaughlin down the sideline to run underneath. Those were great throws. But I think that you need to see more of it. As impressive as he looked, he averaged 6 yards a pass. That's not going to get it done. Those aren't NFL starting franchise quarterback numbers. They're going to have to push the ball downfield. I know that Sean Payton's offense is more to the dink and dunk end of the spectrum in terms of the way he wants his offense operated, but he'll have to dial up big plays, and Bo Nix will have to complete those passes down the field. And I'm not saying this is a criticism of Bo Nix in the first game. Everything went so well for him. He was able to move the ball. They put up points, but I'm just saying there's going to come a time where he has to push the ball downfield. And that's what I would like to see against Green Bay on Sunday to kind of add another layer to this evaluation of Bo Nix is, okay, he threw 5 deep balls and this is how he fared on them. That's kind of the next thing I would like Bo Nix to showcase. It's fine that he really didn't against Indianapolis. It was his first NFL game. But I'd like to see Sean Payton dial up some plays to allow Bo Nix to air it out a little bit. Get those chunk plays, those explosive plays that have eluded the Denver Broncos so often over the last however many years. So I feel like that's the next thing for him to kind of add. Because make no mistake about it, expectations are up. He's going to have to surpass or at least match what he did against Indy. If he shows any level of regression or that it's not quite as good as it was against Indianapolis, some people will start to get a little nervy. They shouldn't, but they will. So there's one way that Bo Nix can show even more than he did in his preseason debut against the Indianapolis Colts. Story number 2 is that we didn't get enough time yesterday because it was all Bo Nix and a lot of Olympics to talk about the other rookies that are part of this transformative foundational class that Sean Payton talked about just a couple of weeks ago. There's no time for anybody else other than Bo Nix, and Bo Nix is a part of that class, and he will be what this class is ultimately judged upon. But there are others, and Sean Payton wasn't just talking about Bo Nix when he made those comments to NFL Network, likening it to his first draft class he had in New Orleans. I thought the rookie not named Bo Nix that stood out the most was Jonah Ellis. And there's an opportunity, even though there are quite a few guys in his position group that you like if you're a Broncos fan, Baron Browning, Cooper, Benito. I mean, if he can kind of show the makings of a go-to pass rusher, like we need to get a quarterback pressure here, let's go to this guy. Let's make sure this guy is on the field. Broncos don't really have that right now. And Jonah Ellis certainly impressed with his ability, forced an interception with the pressure that he was able to create on the quarterback. So I think while there are a lot of guys he's competing with, I think if he keeps showing out, there's some upward mobility on the depth chart for him. I think Estime was about what you expected. Not spectacular, but not terrible. Pro Football Focus said Chris Abrams-Draine was not only the highest rated rookie for the Broncos in that game, but the 5th highest player overall, above Bo Nix in both of those categories. I don't process the game I watch like Pro Football Focus, nor do a lot of people. But there's that. And then I think that the most disappointing, and I use that word loosely because, again, this is their first professional football game ever. Expectations should be kept low, but didn't see a lot of Troy Franklin. I think he may be the rookie that I say needs to show the most, just because he didn't get a lot of run and didn't show a lot when he was out there. But all told, especially when you factor in Bo Nix, pretty good first preseason game for the entire rookie class that Sean Payton is so high on. Story number 3 is also out of the NFL, and it's also about a rookie quarterback, but this one is in Minnesota.
As far as the timeline of the injury, that will be something determined during the procedure based upon, whether it can just be a cleanup or potentially a repair. That won't be able to be determined until that procedure takes place.
That is Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell talking about the knee surgery that J.J. McCarthy, his first-round quarterback, will undergo. And now there's a worst-case scenario here, which is the meniscus is totally torn, and it's going to cost him his rookie season, which is obviously bad, because I expected to see J.J. McCarthy this season for the Minnesota Vikings, and he's going to be a year behind in his development. But imagine if this were Bo Nix or Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels, guys that are expected to be the week 1 starter for their respective teams. This would be much more troubling news. Sam Darnold's the guy, and I fully expect him to start the season anyway. J.J. McCarthy is a bye week. Okay, is it time? Vikings get out of the gate slow. So I think honestly we'll see all of these rookie quarterbacks at some point this season, with Michael Penix being the one that I expect to see the least. I think all of these quarterbacks we're going to see them this season. JJ McCarthy's somewhere in the middle. Like you have Daniels, Williams, and Nix on one end of the spectrum that I expect them to be the week one starters. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have, Drake May and Michael Penix, where May probably makes maybe a bit more than a cameo once the Patriots are out of it, which I expect to be fairly early this season, but maybe like a Drew Lock in 2019, right? Last 4 games, that kind of thing. With Penix, I think he'll play, but it may only be in terms because Kirk Cousins got hurt. Although I feel like the Falcons got to trot him out just to legitimize why they took him. So if those are the two ends of the spectrum, I expect JJ McCarthy to be closer to the Bo Nix end of the spectrum. So hopefully for the Vikings, this is a minor thing and he can still get prepped and be ready to go for, week 8, week 5, if things are going really bad. But we'll see. Certainly not good news, but it'd be worse if it was another member of this quarterback class, just because there are 3 organizations that are heavily depending on their young quarterbacks to help them win football games this season. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the 3 stories that are driving the show. Coming up next, Air Force, as I teased earlier, has revealed their new Air Power Legacy Series uniforms that they will wear against Navy here in Colorado Springs. And they are spectacular. And it gives me an opportunity to put it in context. How good are these compared to what Air Force has dreamt up in previous years? That's next here on Extra Sports 1300. If you like to nerd out, I don't know if it's nerd. I feel like I'm Joan Rivers on the red carpet special when I talk about uniforms, but I care. I care about uniforms. I get into it. I was not impressed, still yet to be impressed by the Broncos' new uniforms. But I am very impressed with what Air Force has put out today. Of course, it's an annual tradition that they have their Air Power Legacy Series uniforms, and they, more often than not, almost always, wear them against another service academy. And this year, they, like most years, have not missed. Now, there are some that I like much more than others, but every year it's really cool. And I think the best part of it when it comes to Air Force is the story that it tells. Like, it's not just what looks cool, which certainly is part of it, right? I mean, even though these are a different breed of student athlete, right? Given where their priorities are and everything, they still want to look good when they go out on the field of competition. And you're still recruiting, and this is a recruitment tool for them. So it is about how cool they look. But what I love about what Air Force does with these, it's why it's designed the way it is. Right? The little details, the like the sayings or the patches or everything help shape a story and tell, and it's historical. Right? A lot of them talk about, like last year, the Doolittle raids and things like that. That's what I love about what Air Force does. And not every program has that ability, right? But the Air Force, with its history, has that ability, and they use it to the fullest extent they can. And that's what I love most about this. So these uniforms, and if you haven't seen them, go to our social media at Extra Sports 1300, or if you follow Air Force football on any social media platform, you'll see them. They've been posting. The video is fantastic. Air Force Creative is just, they're so good at what they do. So shouts to them as well. But it is the Special Ops Command, Air Force Special Ops Command, that they are recognizing with these new uniforms. And they are black with some red. I'm not going to do it justice. You should definitely see it to accompany what I am saying. They'll wear these on October 5th against Navy. And I was looking back and thinking of some of the previous Air Power Legacy series, and I feel like you have to group them into two: the helmet and the uniform. Because a lot of these Air Power Legacy series, they went with kind of the flat gray look because that's the color of the plane, right? So that's part of it, but obviously it doesn't stand out like some of these other uniform combinations they have had. So, but with some of that flat gray uniform color, they have these awesome helmets. So I ranked top 5 in each. And then you can look at the new ones, the Special Ops Command uniforms, and weigh in at 719-247-1313. The best uniforms in this series have been the Doolittle Raider uniforms. And the detail that puts them over the top is the rivets on the numbers. It's like, it's such an Air Force thing, but it's such a cool detail that they have in there. So those Doolittle Raider uniforms. And let's not forget that hockey wears a version of these as well. And they looked fantastic. And the look they have last year was obviously the white uniforms with, the silver numbers with the rivets. And then they went with the chrome helmets. And Air Force Hockey wore chrome helmets. I called one of their games for altitude when they were wearing them. They look awesome. So the uniforms as a whole, I got to go with the Doolittle Raiders last year. Number 2, I would do Space Force. Now, Space Force, obviously because of the newness of it, did not have all the little details and little nods to history that these other uniforms did, but they just look so dope. Like black on black with a little bit of the blue, like they were awesome. So they just look cool. They had some things, the mantra, and look, I'm a civilian, take it easy on me if I don't know the right lingo, but the Sempra Supra on there. So they had some of those touches, but overall they just looked awesome. And they looked futuristic and they were awesome. These ones that they released today would be third in the uniforms. Now, if I just separate the helmet, it's different. But for the uniforms, they would be third. Black with the red, you can't go wrong. I know Air Force does not have either one of those colors, but this is an alternate uniform. Throw out the rules. They look awesome. And then at number 4, I would have the linebacker 2 uniforms. They looked a little, especially in football, looked a little Army-ish, which I don't mean to disparage, but that, I didn't like them as much, but I thought the hockey sweaters that they wore for that one were awesome. But the details on there, those linebacker 2 maximum effort missions that they led in North Vietnam, that story that it told, very cool. So they would be 4th. And then for uniforms, I would go the red tail uniforms. White with the red. Another one of those where if I separate the helmet, it changes things. Just the uniforms, though, I take at 5th. For the helmet, I think this new helmet with kind of the winged, it's a winged dagger. That is the logo of Special Ops Command. Looks awesome. It's like a cooler version of the Oregon Ducks. Like kind of, I know Valkyrie is a female warrior, but kind of that, you look at it and you think of that Valkyrie, just Norse type thing. Very cool. So these would be second only to the shark tooth. I will forever love the shark tooth. I have a smaller replica helmet in my office right now. It is my favorite, with the eyes and the teeth. That's the best helmet they've done in this series. But these new ones are second. Third, I would go the red tails. Helmet. Red, obviously. But, I mean, with the honoring the Tuskegee Airmen and stuff, cool uniform, even better helmet. They rank third. The AC-130 helmets are 4th. And the AC-130 helmets, they were in 2018. They were a little plain, right? There wasn't a ton going on with them. But what stood out was the logos that were on the side. And they were all like Grim Reaper, Ghost, Skeleton, like, and Spooky was written on those helmets. Like those logos, those emblems for the AC-130s. Those were awesome. And then I would probably put the Space Force helmets as the 5th best helmet that they had. But you average them together, and this might be top to bottom the best Air Power Legacy Series uniform Air Force has come up with. And you'll see them in action. And that always changes things a little bit. That's what I was waiting with the Broncos. It's like, I don't really like them. And then I watched them and saw them in action, and I go, I still don't like them. So you have to see these bad boys in action on October 5th. But usually in action makes them look cooler. The difficult part of making a uniform look good, I think, is when it's just, in the hype video or just, a static model standing there wearing them. Seeing them in action usually makes them better. So if you can already start with them looking awesome to begin with in just the hype video and some of the pictures, then they'll probably look pretty cool on the field. And I think that's where I was with the Space Force. I was like, okay, they look cool. Like, I like, and then I saw them out on the field. I'm like, oh, they're awesome. Like, they went up a little bit when I saw Air Force wearing them out on the field. But, yeah, so much paraphernalia will be commandeered by yours truly. Whether it be at the stadium, at Dick's, wherever I can get this stuff. Because that's part of it, too. And the Doolittle Raiders had really cool, like, hoodies and stuff, too, that you could get. So, Air Force has an advantage over a lot of college football programs, right? But there's no reason Navy and Army can't do something cool, and they don't. Not to this degree. So, well done to all those involved. Check those out, and then, of course, see them in action against Navy and, buy all the stuff. That's the American way. Buy all the stuff. 719-247-1313. If you've seen them, I'd love to get your thoughts and what was your favorite Air Power Legacy alternate uniforms that Air Force football has trotted out over the last few years. It's now 1, 2, 3. I didn't put them in chronological order. I just wrote them down as I was thinking about them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 years of the Air Power Legacy series. Man, time is flying by. I remember the shark tooth. It wasn't that long ago. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on those. In the meantime, I want to let you know, if you're often feeling tired, lacking motivation and drive, gaining weight, noticing loss of muscle mass, these could all be signs of low testosterone. Don't wait. Find out. At Low T Center, they make it easy to get your levels checked. It's a simple blood test, and with their on-site lab, you'll get results back in about 25 minutes. I always say I never have enough time in the day, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that. 25 minutes for something like this feels like not that much time. Low T Center is not your typical doctor's office. Their physicians specialize in treating low testosterone with customized treatments for each patient, including physician-monitored self-inject treatments that ship directly to your door. Now, you have to be an established patient. Your levels have to be at a certain level, levels at the certain level. But you could start down that road, start that process out by getting a appointment at lowtcenter.com. That's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare. The Colorado State Fair is back in Pueblo, August 23rd through September 2nd in all its resplendent glory. Free attractions and entertainment, carnival, the food, the food, and a great concert lineup featuring Ludacris, Trace Atkins, the Goo Goo Dolls, and many more, not all at the same time, although that would be pretty amazing. Like Lollapalooza. But they all have their individual concert, and you're going to want to go to all of them. Plan your trip today. Don't wait till the last minute. Here's the other thing. Pro tip. I had to find out the hard way. So much better to plan out because there's so much to do at the Colorado State Fair. Plan it out at Colorado State Fair.com. File this under an incredibly bad idea. Michigan was getting ready to honor Jim Harbaugh before their game against Fresno State. Make him an honorary captain. What they'll say, what Sherrod Moore said today, was that he's not doing it because he wants to remain in the trenches with the LA Chargers. Okay. Has nothing to do with a recent finding and subsequent punishment from the NCAA. That would make it a bit awkward. I know that Michigan is in their own world when it comes to this stuff, and they think that they're being unfairly persecuted, and this is a witch hunt and all that kind of stuff. But still, the Jim Harbaugh coming back as this conquering hero, a week? First week into a season where you are facing sanctions from the NCAA for things that he did? Yeah, I mean, that's tough. So Michigan, for whatever reason, but probably the reason I just stated, are going to have Jim's parents there, which is obviously, it's great. Jack Harbaugh in the building, much better. But choosing them just shows that maybe Michigan should have thought twice before extending the honor to Jim Harbaugh, because I don't know that they would have come up with having Jim Harbaugh's parents there. Like, they would have said, hey, for this game, why don't we invite Jim Harbaugh's parents? I don't think that was ever a thought process. It was, now I'm not in those rooms, but to me, it was like, we want to do this, right? We just came off of a national championship. Let's bring him back. Let's make him an honorary captain. And they said, go. Great idea. And then somebody with a little bit more level head and somebody that was looking out for the university got to him a bit too late and went, you sure this is a good idea? Or when they reached out to Jim Harbaugh, and I know he had the comments that he had the other day at Charger practice where he took no responsibility. He went full Conor McGregor, where he's like, I apologize to absolutely no one. Like, that's what Jim Harbaugh essentially did. So maybe it's not Harbaugh, but somebody was like, we are facing sanctions from the NCAA. We are not in a great light right now. Like, we can act like everything is peachy and we didn't do anything wrong, even though we know that we did. Somebody somewhere got to him and was like, you sure this is a good idea? And they're like, probably not. What do we pivot to? And what do we tell people to try to make them believe that if Jim Harbaugh's denial and what he said at Charger practice a couple weeks ago isn't going to sway anybody, then yeah, we're going to. Nothing's gonna. Like, look, we're unmoved. We know what you did. It's not a mortal sin, but stop acting like you did nothing. And maybe don't draw a lot of attention to it. I'm not saying distance yourself from Jim Harbaugh, but just like give it a minute. Like let him show up for a college football playoff game or something next year. Just let things simmer a little bit. Cool down. I don't think that's what you want, but I don't know. Michigan fans have baffled me at every turn in this saga, so what do I know? Perhaps now Jerry Jones will sell the Cowboys. Sportico is reporting that the Cowboys are now worth $10.32 billion, which you know that the resale value is going to be even greater. Right? Broncos weren't worth $2 billion or whatever Greg Penner paid for him. He had to pay above their valuation. So what would the Cowboys go for on the open market? $15 billion? Like if being valued at over $10 billion, the first pro franchise to be valued that high ever, doesn't convince Jerry Jones to cash out, nothing will. And not even that. I have no expectation whatsoever that Jerry Jones has ever considered selling the Dallas Cowboys or ever will. And if you're Stephen Jones, what are you going to, you're going to sell it? Look at what happened in Tennessee. The kid of the owner held on to that for dear life. The Broncos tried to do that. The kids, what else do they have? They want to keep the Clark Hunt is a great example. What else is he going to do? He wants the franchise. So if Jerry's not selling, I don't see Steven selling. Cowboys now worth $10.23 billion. And file this under Y. And I even bringing it up, I know I shouldn't. It's not a relevant story, and it only gets people angry. But hey, I'm at the end of the show. You'll cool down before tomorrow. Colin Kaepernick says Colin Kaepernick is going to be 56 years old and claiming that he could play in the NFL. I mean, he's getting to Mercury Morris levels of delusion. Right? Remember Mercury Morris, like always, talking about no one's better than us because we're and it just constantly, like, this is Colin Kaepernick with his playing career. Like, we all know the story. Broncos were interested. 49ers wouldn't take any of Colin Kaepernick's contract. Colin Kaepernick would not take a pay decrease. So John Elway moved on. That's the way it went. And then Seattle flew him in. Colin Kaepernick told him he wasn't a backup. And they went, okay, well, we kind of wanted you to be a backup, so I guess there's no fit here. And then every year after that, he's like, I can help a team win a Super Bowl. He just did it the other day. And this is nothing. This doesn't even have to be about what Colin Kaepernick is most known for. I mean, this is like, some people look at Tom Brady when he makes the comments that he made on that barbershop podcast a while back. Like, I could play if somebody, like, at some point, we're going to go, no, Tom, no, you can't. Stop floating it out there. Now, Tom Brady is Tom Brady. right? And he and LeBron James, it's going to shock you whenever they're actually retire because you're like, well, they still have something left, don't they? You're never going to believe LeBron is too old, and you never believe Tom Brady was too old. But there will come a day where Tom Brady will do this because he'll keep doing this. I know he will. He'll be asked the question and he'll say, yeah, I think I could still play. Colin Kaepernick is so beyond that point that it's not even funny. Again, I hesitate to even bring it up because in no universe is Colin Kaepernick right. There is not one single team, not one in the NFL that would trade their starting quarterback for Colin Kaepernick. Not one. And it's not because of what Colin Kaepernick used to be. Colin Kaepernick, what he used to be, a few teams would take that. How long has this been going? 8 years? I got to hand it to him. He finds his way into the news cycle. He dupes me into talking about him, even if it's just to say that he is completely delusional. At this point, the statute of limitations in terms of, like, if you're still mad over Colin Kaepernick, then it's like, come on, you got to push through. That was how long ago? But we can, no matter what side of that whole thing you're on, we can come to an agreement and say this dude is so far past being able to help anybody do anything in the NFL that this is just patently ridiculous. And it's just, he just wants to, being a martyr is a hell of a drug. Like, that's kind of what I chalk it up to. But like, even the people who stick up, like, those people are gone. Nobody is with a straight face making the case that Colin Kaepernick deserves a shot in the league. He's done. He's gone. Whatever may have happened, fairly, unfairly, okay, but time has passed. The ship has sailed. There is not one. I don't care. The Steelers wouldn't take him over Russell Wilson at this point. Stun. Go away. Stop popping up into my timeline. It's no more. I'll tell you this, though. It's not going to it's not going to be a topic that I lead a show with, but I don't know if you've seen this. The whole De'Erica Hambry, who played for the USA 3-on-3 women's basketball team, that actually turned out pretty well for them, all things considered. But she was a member of that team, was a replacement for Cameron Brink. She plays for the LA Sparks. She used to play for the Las Vegas Aces, coached by Becky Hammon. She is now filing a lawsuit alleging, and this was already in the works, but now it's kind of bubbling up to the top of the news cycle, I think because of where the WNBA is now. And by the way, they're starting back up here shortly. But she's claiming that the Aces traded her because she got pregnant, which I don't have to be a lawyer to know that that is probably not okay. If that is the reason, and I read Hambry's account of what happened, I think the Aces are being a little bit mum on the whole thing. But what Hambry alleges is that absolutely they traded her because she was pregnant and would be of little use to them, even though she claims that she would have been ready for the upcoming season. that even though the pregnancy wasn't planned, the timing of it would allow her to be ready for the opening of the WNBA season. Becky Hammon didn't reportedly, allegedly, see it that way and said things, again, this is one side of the story, but said things like, oh, well, we kind of thought you would get pregnant again, and you're not committed, and read the accounts. Not good. If this is true, Becky Hammon's in some trouble. But that's starting to make the rounds here as the WNBA makes its way back. And I'll be curious to see, with things starting back up again in the WNBA, do we pick it up? This is the interesting point of this WNBA season, because now you got football. And we know that football is going to consume most everything. But how much of a niche can the WNBA carve out over the next month, 2 months, as they come back? Be interested to see that. But this De'Erica Hambry story, not great, Bob. Not great, Bob. If it's true. I mean, that's kind of the whole crux of it. It's got to be true, but that's her side of the story. Before I go, I want to tell you about QC Kinetics. If you've been dealing with chronic joint pain, and maybe you've tried some of the old ways of doing it, surgery, steroids, pain pills, and it hasn't worked, or you're a little bit leery of some of the effects and some of the drawbacks of those kind of things, I'm here to tell you QC Kinetics, helping patients like you every day with exciting new cellular therapies that can get you lasting relief. They're the nation's leader in advanced regenerative medicine, cutting-edge treatments that accelerate your own body's healing properties, revitalizing your joints so you can move again. They've helped tens of thousands of patients across the country, many of them right here in our fair city of Colorado Springs. Learn how QC Kinetics can treat the pain, enhance your joints, restore your mobility, and give you long-term relief with no downtime. This is the future of medicine. Call for a free consultation now, 719-347-1988, 719-347-1988. QC Kinetics, 719-347-1988. It has been my pleasure to serve you. Appreciate the interaction. No, Tom, I will not say that what Tom Brady did in his age 39 season is more impressive from a physical feat perspective than what LeBron did. The season turned out better. The stats were better, but LeBron, from a physical standpoint, is doing things that are more impressive than Brady did at 39. Just not going to concede that. But I always love you texting in, as any one of you who text in. And we'll reconvene tomorrow at 3, see what shakes out over the evening hours. Have a good one.